Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Lionel, and I'm your host for LT Productions. You are watching I Watch You Watch. We are covering Complicated the series, currently streaming on Tubi, seasons 1 and 2. I am on season 2, episode 3, entitled Emotional Consequences. I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like this video. You can also subscribe to my channel and leave your comments below. Now let's get into this episode. Okay, so we're at the hospital with Detective Fitzgerald and Calvin, and he's questioning Calvin about the accident. Calvin's like, why are you asking me these questions? Shouldn't you be out there getting all your information? He asks, the detective asks Calvin to trace back steps of what happened before he got shot. He talks about just closing up his office, getting to his car, and next thing you know, he woke up in the hospital. He doesn't remember anything else, Does he recognize this gray charcoal vehicle? And he says, no, what does this got to do anything? The security footage shows that this car was there the night that he was shot. Fitz ends up showing him a picture, and he recognizes whomever is in the picture, but then is interrupted by his fiance Morgan saying, hey, honey bear, I have food for you. I said, one, for interrupting. Two, honey bear. Okay, Morgan. Honey bear. So, of course, Fitz calls out Morgan. They have a little talk, and Calvin's like, what the is going on between y'all? She calls him Fitz. I said, are we about to have Olivia Pope and Fitz redux on this show? Like, what's happening? Fitz leaves, and Calvin says, what is this between you and the detective? Nothing. Like, she could hardly, how can I say this, conceal herself in this whole situation. Calvin is way suspicious, which he should. Well, you guys are on a nickname basis, and you're trying to act like this is just some pass-away type of relationship. But anyways, Calvin's not buying what Morgan is trying to say. I guess I'll continue on with them. Morgan goes, brings more food. This was later that night, and she goes and takes a call. First, Calvin wasn't even interested when Morgan came in because his spidey senses is up. So she goes, takes this call. Calvin gets out of bed, so obviously he's not paralyzed anymore. And he goes and listens at the door. Morgan goes down the hallway. I don't know exactly what he heard or not, but anyways, she comes back, and he asks, what's going on? Oh, when Morgan was on the phone, I forgot about this. Whomever she's talking to, she's talking about Calvin's current state. She says that he's harmless and can barely walk. That's the least of our worries. I don't know exactly what all the talk is, but anyways, she said that she'll have the paperwork sent over in the morning. Calvin goes back to his bed before Morgan gets there, and then he asks, who's that on the phone? She says, oh, nothing, just the office. It's a last minute. They need to get some last minute statements. Then Calvin just bluntly says, was it Fitz? Huh? How is he doing? I wouldn't know that. Calvin said, I think you do. She's like, no. Calvin was like, one thing about me is I don't like to be made to look stupid. And Morgan said, nobody is doing that but your wife. My wife, huh? Okay. I'm not really feeling well, and I need the rest of the night to myself. And she's like, really? There was nothing going on. I promise it was the office. Good night, Miss Goldstein. I said, oh. Oop. You're one more step out the door, Miss Morgan. Alyssa from the office comes by with some paperwork. She found some license plates, possibly from the vehicle that Fitz was talking about. Calvin asks Alyssa to run the plates and to see who the owner is. Now, Kennedy. Kennedy has to go back home, or at least she thought she was. She goes inside with her luggage. She puts it down, goes to talk to Daddy, Mr. Edmund. She sees him, and he sees her. And he immediately asks, what did I tell you about family? She said, the saddest thing about betrayal is that it never comes from your own enemies. So then at that point, he just lays into her. She's saying that this wasn't her. She wouldn't have done this. This was Dante. Da 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 da. Dad was like, I never thought you would stoop this low. I knew that you hated her. Da 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 da. He says, take responsibility and grow the F up. And then he tells her to get the F out of my house. I said, whoa. But this ain't even the most effed up part. So Mr. Edwin leaves the room and he runs into Melanie, coming down the stairs. And he goes in on her. He says, wasn't the terms of our contract good enough for you? You have money, power, everything. And all you had to do is keep me company and look good on my arm. And you can do everything else that is not going to have a bad impact on me. Of course, she says she's sorry, but he ain't listening. And then Kennedy, she's coming to the door so she can go out. I guess she didn't hear any of that conversation. And I think that would confirm a lot of things, even though she thought that Melanie was just a gold digger on her own. She is a gold digger, but the dad really put her in place to be this trophy wife. So she runs into Melanie, and Melanie says, I bet you think twice for getting involved in grown folks' business. I said, Lord, here we go. I bet you think twice about getting caught, Kennedy says. Oh, wait a minute. You did. And then Melanie says, you ungrateful bee. You have no idea who you are messing with. So your hatred for me is blinding your priorities. I heard that your money is running dry and that you're cut off. Ooh, should have said that? I mean, that's kind of written in stone that she's being cut off. But wasn't she being cut off season 1? I thought she was. I don't know. And then Kennedy says, I will make it like I always do. And then at this point, I really wish Kennedy would have just tore into that tail. She said, do you? Or do you look like you're making it? I said, Lord Jesus. Right then and there. Look at that. I would have stomped it to the ground if I was Kennedy. And then as Kennedy is going out the door, all of a sudden Melanie says, the locks will be changed in the morning. I think that that's overkill. Because why? The dad don't want anything to do with her. Sorry. I'm like, that was just overkill. I don't think that was needed. But you wanted to be extra dramatic, I guess. Let's see where we're at. Chase with his sister. They're drinking this wine that was Erica's favorite wine. He said he was going to give it to her the night of her birthday party, but of course that didn't happen due to the circumstances. The sister says, why don't you talk to her? At this point, Chase says, I really don't know what I want. I said a lot of stuff to her. The sister said that you were hurting and you wanted to hurt her too. I said, yeah, you did, Chase, but I mean, how many kind words do you have for her, even on a regular basis? Because it quickly goes into this whole mansplaining, derogatory, I'm up here, I'm smarter than you, I know better than you, and you want this type of Stepford wife, and really more what Erica said in the last episode, you basically want a house ninja. So, I don't know. But Chase says, Erica, she's in love with someone else, and I have to move on. They talk about his little case that he got in regards to, remember, Calvin in first season was about to kick him out of his own restaurant because he bought the building and all that good stuff. The sister said that she found a loophole in the lease agreement. Then he talks about Calvin, he deserved to be shot, and the sister said, wait, don't be saying that out loud. You know that there's an investigation going on. And then she says, what is it that you wanted to tell me? He's nervous, and he's gulping all of this wine down and is fixing to tell her until the doorbell rings. And it is his father. His father says, oh, your sister, I heard from your mom that your sister came down here to visit you and that gal. And I said, but I got to remember, this is in South Carolina, so yeah. yeah. And we have a hint as to what this father is like. And we see it through Chase a little bit. He says, aren't you going to invite me in? And then that was the end of that scene. Kennedy goes to Zay's home. out of all people. Kennedy, you don't have any other friends? You don't know no one? Like, man, you need some besties, something. My God. So anyway, she goes there, really asking for a place to stay. Zay ain't really trying to hear her still. And she was reminding him, you said that you were saving yourself for the woman that's meant for you. But saving yourself for what? Because Zay, I mean, you still gets it in with your roster. So, I don't know. You know, Kennedy says, you know, sorry for falling off the pedestal that I didn't even ask to be on. And I think that that's true. One, y'all were just getting to know each other. I don't even think you guys were officially dating as of yet. And you wanted her to open up about her life. There are some things, you know, that could have been known, but all y'all did is share a kiss. Y'all haven't even had sex. So it's just like, Zay, did you need to know everything that was going on with Kennedy at that time? We knew about you because your stuff was out loud. And I don't think you were trying to hide it, but it's just like, it was out there and whatever. It's not something that you really had to confess. I don't know. I'm kind of more on Kennedy's side on that whole situation because it's like, we're just getting to know each other. Sorry. Zay says it's always something with you. First the boyfriend, da-da-da-da-da, now this, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Zay lets her stay. Always got to give her a hard time. But I think they give each other a hard time, if I'm really thinking this through. So, whatever. So later on, Kennedy is on the couch. He gets her some like covers and all that good stuff. And she's like, oh, you about to make me sleep on the couch? And he's like, you think you were about to sleep in my bed? Not. Why did you expect this amount of chivalry from Zay, Kennedy? And then, do you really want to sleep there? Because his roster still comes in and out. I'm just saying. Not saying he don't watch the sheets or nothing. We don't know if he watched the sheets yet. So, stay on the couch, man. Stay on the couch. Jalen and Erica, they meet someplace familiar to them both. It's a special place. Looks like he got everything, lights, candles, everything like a picnic at night. And they're reminiscing on the old times. He brings out an iPod for them to listen to music, da-da-da-da-da. He asked her to dance. And she said, you know you can't dance. He said that he's gotten better. Even as dancing, he still isn't that on beat. And I suffer the same thing, Jalen, so you ain't in on this alone. He shifts the conversation or shifts the mood onto saying, it's killing me that you didn't tell me about the baby. Erica's trying to explain the stuff that she was going through. And Jalen says, I'm not blaming you. He just wished she was there. He says that he never stopped loving you. And Erica was like, you know, all of this was just years ago. You know, I'm married now. And he says, you know, I wanted that for us. You're not even wearing your wedding ring. So are you really married? I mean, yes, Jalen, legally, yeah, duh. He says that I would have stayed if he knew about the baby. He had plans. I'm thinking about that one song from Usher and Wale. I forget what it is. But I mean, too little too late at this point. But anyways, he's able to suck Erica in, even past her opposition of, look, I'm really attached to someone else. They end up having sex. For me, I don't feel any negativity. I mean, Erica's vulnerable. Do I feel like Jalen is using that to his advantage? Yeah. But I think he's still trying to get her back. So there's an open door. She's not with the husband. He kicked her out. So why don't we just go back in time? But he seems to be stuck in this time, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. I mean, we are even seeing he still has visions of his dad. His dad is being his conscience. So, yeah. So Jalen, he talks to his therapist the day after and shares what happened between him and Erica. You know, the therapist was like, I'm happy for you. But you spoke a lot about the past and how it used to be. And then all of a sudden you see Jalen kind of just start being triggered and freaking out. He's like, Doc, you said that you weren't going to do this. And she said, I know. However, you did lie to me. When we spoke before, you were talking about another woman. And as we're looking at this therapist that's on Zoom, we're seeing the legs, the body, and all of a sudden we come up to the face. Guess whose face is attached to this therapist? What? So, Maria is the therapist that is counseling Jalen, who was formerly with Val, whom her and her husband are pursuing after to be a third in the relationship. So now my thoughts are, is Jalen crazy by himself, or is someone making him crazy? I want to know what's in these pills. Because it don't seem like, the only time I see him acting any type of normal is when he's talking to Erica. For the most part, you see the eagerness and the nervousness and this desperation coming out of him, but he's able to keep it at bay. Because I know that on Jalen's level, he was pulling some of the strings. But it seems like we have a master manipulator on top. And this Maria, at least, and possibly Neil too. It seems like there's a scheme that's been set up by Todd to come to us with the bullshit. Like, what? Okay. I got my eye on you, Maria. Got my eye on you. So she said, Jalen says, you know, this other woman, whom we know is Val, she's in the past. And the therapist says, is she? I mean, just the other day, she kicked you out. So you moved on to the next best thing. That's what it seems like to me. Okay, so Erica and Mo, they are at the restaurant/bar that Chase and her are supposed to be running, but Chase acts like everything is his. Aren't you kind of scared or want to be strange to see Chase around here? Mo asked, and Erica was like, nothing is awkward, you know. You know, Chase could come around with his unseasoned food. I said, Lord, of course. Mo had to say something about that food. So Erica was like, look, I'm ordering drinks. And the bartender was like, would you like to open a tab? And she's like, would you like to open a tab? Just being crazy because of, look, I own this. What are you talking about? Bring the drinks. So next we see that Val, Maria, and Neil, they've invited Val to 821, which is Chase's restaurant. I think, whatever. He orders drinks for everyone. And Val is just like, at this point, okay, so what is this all about? You know, I could have brought myself to 821. Now, Neil loves it. He loves this feistiness that's inside her. Maria says, you know, I love that you wore something sexy for me. I said, oh, that's quite forward. And then she starts talking about, I think your mouth could be used for better things and stuff like that. And then Val said, can y'all stop with all this cold-ish? Like, obviously Val knows what they're talking about, but it's just like, just come out with it. They say that we are go-getters. If we see something we want, we get it. And we want you. They said that we'll take care of you, and it's nothing but the best. And she said, so you start here at this restaurant? Oh, Chase is catching some strays, but I don't care. Oh my God. So we go back to Erica and Mo. She's still getting these drinks, trying to get Mo drunk along with her. Drink up. And Mo's like, no, Zay is her babysitter and she gotta get back to her babies. And she, as we all like, Zay babysitting? Okay. Mo begins to tell Erica her problems. You know, half of her clientele is canceling out on her. Calvin is still being a DICK. The children acting up. And that white itch won't leave. And then Erica said, Casper ass itch. I said, oh, who wrote that line? Who wrote that line? Or was that impromptu? Erica! Lord Jesus. And then to top it all off, Mo has to meet with the schoolmaster of the schools that the children are going to. So back to Maria, Val, and Neil. Val says, is this where you take all of your F-buddies? We're like, no, F-buddies? No. You will be dating the both of us. They said that they require to take tests before anything actually happened. You know, STD tests and all that good stuff. And we'll do it periodically every 3 months. and you just let us know who you're dating. We just ask for open and honest communication. If things are getting serious between you and the other person, let us know. And then Neil says that we'll have to sign an NDA. And she says, why aren't we signing it now? You telling us all your business right now. And they said, are we? Because this could just be gossip or hearsay, just by word of mouth. And then she says, what in the 50 shades of what in the 50 shades of F up gray is this y'all got going on? This ain't my cup of tea, Maria says that if you weren't not somewhat intrigued, you would have been gone by now. She holds her hand. I said, Lord Jesus. Lord Jesus. Val says, I don't do women. Your man can get it though. I just need a moment of your time before you say no. So I'm gonna get my dress taken in this Friday, and all I ask is for an hour of your time. Like I said before, I don't do women. I think you are curious. So Val at this point is saying, you know, if we do it or not, I still want my dinner. An itch is famished. And I would take them up on their offer too. So, as Val, Maria, and Neil are leaving, also Mo and Erica are leaving, and they run into each other. Mo and Erica are a mess. Tore up. So as they're being clowns, Val asks Mo, you know, how's Calvin? And she says, he's a DICK. It's DICK. I can't talk today. And also says that it's an uphill battle as she struggles to come up with the words. And then Mo says, who are these people? They introduce themselves, Neil and Maria. Erica's like, enchanté. I said, Lord Jesus. Then Val asks Erica, how are you doing? And then she turns to Mo. Is she asking how I'm doing? Is she? Not well, itch. You know, I should have listened to Mo when she said that you were a low-grade whore. I think I can say that on YouTube. And basically, she just said, F you. Yeah, F you. I don't want to see you. Don't mention my name. I don't even want to feel your gaze. And then Erica leaves and tells Mo to come on. It's a comedic moment. Mo says, bye, in a very drunk way. So, the plot is thickening everywhere. So Melanie was really somebody that we couldn't really play with. I mean, we realized last episode that there's something going on with Melanie and Calvin and all this that's even at a higher position. I'm thinking it has something to do with Edwin and Calvin, but I don't know. Who knows? It's too early to tell. Yeah, this Maria situation is quite crazy. And it looks like Val has been targeted not once, but twice now. First by Jalen. Who knows if Jalen and who knows? But I'm coming up with a lot of things. But anyways, I did enjoy this episode. Shout out to the cast and crew. Please like this video. Subscribe. And until the next one. Peace.